Yahoo! Prof here, and today we are here with that video I promised back when we unboxed the CinemaStaff album, as well as the new CD player. Right there from Moondrop. The Moondrop Disc Dream 2 Ultra. I was supposed to be recording this earlier in the night, but I guess look away if you guys, I don't know, no one calls gore, but I might have done schwucked my foot a little bit. Yeah. So, I want to get off my feet for a little bit, just chill and vibe, you know. Have a little snack, and eat some drink. Yeah, no, have a drink and have a little snack. The toes still wiggle, so it could be worse. But yeah, not the best. We did get the new Skill Hunt headband in, so you guys can check that. I got my first lanyard beads in. Sadly, as soon as I ordered that, they ran out, and I really would prefer the yellow. We've got this for an upcoming video I teased. Waiting for some stuff to come in there. Where's the other item for that? I think it's this guy right here. So you're gonna have a kind of a, for those of you that like EDC knives, the OG, the Gerber EAB is I'm gonna have a follow-up video to videos I did previously with some suggestions that you guys had. What we are covering here, and yes, it's been opened because I had to have it. I used Bai. I couldn't even, once again, I hit Japan, where despite taking my credit card, like allowing me to put it in, and then yeah, they'll start processing it, but then basically once they figure out that it's not a native Japan credit card, they just like spit it out. And a lot of the sites don't even know, like don't even give you a proper error. Well, because of that, I had to use Bai. Not the worst thing ever. I've used them before. They're like the buying portion of Tenso, who is kind of a shipping forwarder. You can see this came directly from Sony. There is a pair of Sony headphones that I have been lusting after for quite some time, and I should probably get the I'm gonna walk with a limp for a little bit here. Probably gonna, normally I do no socks. I just wear my Birkenstocks, you know. But fuck, maybe I need some sock padding. So I've had a pair of, I think technically my dad had a pair of MDR-V6s back when I was a wee lad, and then when I well, sad fact, when I was a child I was bullied. Surprise, surprise, right? They then broke a pair of headphones. Well, they had to get replaced. I used that to pick up this pair of Sony MDR-V6s that are literally as old as I am. You want it before 1991 or during a certain time in 1991 to get the original speakers rather than the ones from the 7506. So why is this here? Well, effectively, these are made off of the Japanese CD-900. Which I can't, it's not even on US eBay. Because everything pops up for what's in here, effectively. Then the 7506, which I do not own, came out because I have the V6s. If you needed if you need to just buy a pair of headphones, they still sell the 7506, though. And if you see a lot of new V6s, there was a time, probably when I was early to YouTube, where there were knockoff MDR V6s galore. I don't know why, but they actually had, like, it's like a much newer packaging. that looks like they did kind of like re-release the MDR V6 in the, I want to say the 2010s or late 2000s. So watch out for that. If you see a new in box like that, I would not trust it. I personally, unless you can get confirmation that it's like a known true V6 old pair, I would probably just buy a brand new pair of 7506s. But this is kind of one step up from that. Japan took the 7506 and said, nah, we're bringing it back down to the CD900 with the CD900ST. What do? They remove the coily cable. They remove, this reminds me, actually, we'll have to, I don't know if I have my adapter down here. They remove the ability to screw off the 1/4-inch jack. You don't need that. You just go straight to a 1/4-inch only. They don't need the ability to fold, because you remember the ST, I think that's I don't know if it actually stands for studio, but effectively let's just say it stands for studio. They don't need to fold in a studio. If anything, that actually breeds breakage. By the way, these haven't, they look plasticky, but underneath the plastic there's metal. So yes, the when I say I repaired this, yes, this headband looks like garbage. Got a little bit of peeling on my ear cups, where it's like not the actual ear cup material, because that's real leather. Spent some good money on that. Sadly, the apparently that stretch material they used to fake the leather around. And this is what they gave you back in the day. A sack. I basically just, and I've always just put the cable in the bottom, fold up the headphones, chuck them in here. So everything that made that even slightly portable has been taken out after it's went from the 7506 or V6 to the 7506 to then, what's in here? The CD-900ST. Now, what makes this special? I could have bought a CD-900ST years ago, right? You can kind of look up online, and maybe we'll get into it. What makes the CD-900ST special? It is not just those physical features I talked about, but it is actually tuned differently by, just like that MDR-M1ST, which is the follow-up to the CD-900ST. Or some people say mist too, for that one. If you guys are wondering the reason why there's a M1ST Studio one, right? It's because apparently they knew years ago that there was going to be an M1. Which is the one we recently opened up, so go back and check that on the channel. I've always been a huge fan of that foot, man. Huge fan of Sony. Well, not just like Sony, but Sony's reference / studio / monitor headphones, right? You know, just the type of sound that comes out of them. It's I'd say more analytical. It has a certain curve to it. Where the fuck did I put those? I almost forgot. I mean, here. I recently picked up, these are not the original case. The Plantronics case, actually. But I even picked up in a recent video, apparently, while on some meds. The predecessor to the V6, which is the CD5. There was also a CD7. There is a 0 in the price difference between these and the 7. So that's the predecessor, and you can really hear it. Really hear it in the sound. I do need to get some ear cups for those, which will help greatly. Okay, so we've got kind of, that's like cardboard. It's not even just paper. That's got some, so pretty obviously, this is the box that it came from Sony to buy you for. I think there are 2 ways to ship it from Sony to buy. I didn't get to choose it because originally I was going to ship to Tenzo, and I would have chosen the more expensive one that had tracking, yada yada yada. I'm not sure if they did that or not, because I think like the default, like the courier service in Japan is like, dude takes it from the store and brings it to you. So I don't know that you necessarily get a box versus shipping. Obviously, you get a box. Then Bai will open it up. Yeah, this seems to be very well formed to what was in here. Bai will open it up. They will not open up this necessarily, but they will make sure. Now you can request that with Bai. They will, for an additional fee, crack this open and even take photos. Each photo, I believe, is like a certain amount of money. Now, if you're doing used stuff, you may want to take advantage of that. In this case, I pretty much knew as long as this came, it would be correct because it's coming from a retail, major retailer. Very black, standard box. This is interesting. Down here, made in Japan, made in China, made in Thailand. Interesting. So what this is this is Sony, the first take. MDR CD900ST special collaboration box. So what this is for, I should probably know, one of the anniversaries of the first take. I don't know if it's number of views, if it's number of videos. I should probably have had this for this video, because that would be the smart and cool thing to do. I also should probably save that tweet. Let's see here. Special collaboration, limited 300 sets. That's one of 300. And I'm not going to say I almost didn't get one, because I don't think that was ever an issue. But I was on top of it as soon as I saw it. But then even though I made an account and yada, 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 I couldn't order it. So I had to have Bai do it. I was like, I hope by the time you guys get, my thing gets through, you guys get to order it, that it's not taken up. But it wasn't. I got confirmation. Took a little bit, though, actually. That might just be because it's one of 300. Like, they make sure it's actually going to go through and stuff. There you go. MDR-ST special collaboration box. Let's open this up. So I don't have a pair, and that's kind of why I jumped on this, is I don't have a pair of CD900STs. So if I'm going to get any pair of CD900STs, I might as well get the ones from the first take. And you're like, what is the first take? Effectively, the first take is, I'll bring up their YouTube right now. It's definitely Sony backed. I don't think they came out and said that early on, but that's their website. I did not mean to do that. YouTube, the first take. There you go. So 99%, it is Sony. I shouldn't say all. They do have non-Sony artists on here. Most of the artists, barring exception, are Sony artists. The whole point of this, though, is that it started pre-COVID, really took off during that. But it's all acoustic. I think they later on added some electric stuff, but it's generally often, especially the early ones, and carries into some of the newer ones, is just vocals. Like, they'll make a piano, like a bass piano version of the song, and it's just raw vocals. Some of the best versions, in my opinion, of some of these songs are in here. And if we switch this to oldest, there are artists that I've discovered because of the first take. Like, these are artists in genres I generally would not listen to. That, hey, generally speaking, if it's on the first take, I'll give it a listen, because sometimes I don't always Queen Bee's stuff is crazy on here. That's actually what introduced me to I turns out I'd heard some of their music previously, and then shortly after this I heard it in an anime. A lot of times they'll have, because it's Sony, once this took off, they'll use this as a promotional platform, right? So they will have the Kanaboon was a big one, because this was the first one that ever had a mess up in the thing. And they actually, it's because she's not normally the second here. And it was her first time performing the song. So they actually re-recorded one later on their own channel. GEEKRIA Talkie. Yeah, that was kind of like, people made a big deal about it. I personally didn't notice because I wasn't familiar with either of the songs. TK's stuff, Link Toshite GEEKRIA, his covers here are like, put shivers down your spine, and you guys are probably like, why don't these have watched videos at the bottom with the red? What I found, because I generally proof watch most of my own content. After a certain point, I don't know if it's a number of videos or a time, YouTube stops flagging them as watched. This is also for other channels. Often if I watch a channel, I will watch a channel, and I will watch all or nearly all of their stuff. And it regularly just shows me videos that it thinks I haven't watched that I have. And I have, like, I know Die Hard probably through the first festival for sure. You can start seeing down to here too, where Creepy Nuts, for sure the first 40, 50 of them, if not 80, I was like, not that I don't follow it anymore, but like it was some of, I just noticed as things go along a little bit more, they were getting a little bit more open with how it could be done. Like in some cases, they're even full bands and stuff. It was just going a little bit away from like the original ones that I really appreciated, where it was just so clean and like very unique, like nowhere. It was kind of like for those that have seen MTV Unplugged, especially like the Japanese MTV Unplugged, where they'll do entire acoustic sets of something that's traditionally not acoustic. It had a similar vibe to that, except even more raw. Also, it should be noted that this is a microphone. Here you go. Look at the description. A microphone, a white studio, and one rule: you've got one take. Perform anything you like. And then show us everything you got for that one moment. So it like, they basically come, set it up. It is what it is. And for a lot of the very, very experienced artists, you can see it shows. Like, they actually have fun with it, because I don't want to say they know a part, but obviously, but they're truly performing. You can see that especially with Lisa. Like TK even has variants of his stuff specifically for it. AKG has some of these later on, which was kind of interesting. They started doing just the lead singer, and then sometimes the second song would be the entire band. Often it'd be a two-part song, where they would come in and they would do their new song, and then they would do like either the song they most wanted to do or like their top song. It kind of depended on the artist, like which way they went with that. Yeah, if you want to watch Lisa's Gringe cover, or not cover, but version on the first take, it is crazy. But yeah, check out their stuff if you like Japanese music. Mostly, like I said, mostly Sony artists, but it's always worth a listen. even if you don't particularly like the song, or I shouldn't say don't particularly like the genre, this could be a different take on that genre. A lot of these people or groups will like, they can have some really unique, like they're trying to bring their live, not necessarily music video performance, but their live performance, like a very intimate live performance and experience to you. Yeah, there you go, Kana Boon Feet. It's the bassist from Asian Kung Fu Generation, because I believe he helped write that specific song. Oh, there you go. He's a character for sure. Then the First Take Festival are like festivals where they have a number of the artists that were on over the season. Oh yeah, the Creepy Nuts First Take versions are, I forget which song it was, but he's like, I've only ever performed this once before at a festival, and it had to be the last song because it wrecks his voice. And he wasn't even planning on doing it. Like I said, they have control, like in that point in time, to do what they want to do. Ali is one that I actually started following because of this as well. That's interesting. They kind of came up and then fell off due to stuff that happened with members of the band, because most of their members were international, and I think one of them got caught, like, even though he's in a internationally recognized band, he got caught, like, him and his like friends got caught ripping off seniors or something. Like, it was crazy. And generally, like, when that happens in Japan, like, the whole band just stops. So they effectively had to reform after that under it might even be under a different name, but it's under the lead singer. He's had a couple very unique, been a part of other ventures as well. So check them out. It is a, like, if you thought you knew a song, you don't know the song. If there's a First Take version, you do not know it until you listen to the First Take version. There are parts and certain, like, pacing and things that are done or said that like, you won't notice until they do a performance that is this clean, that is this devoid of other influence, let's call it. Then shortly after I want to say it was that the first festival, they started releasing these as available as tracks separately, right? Because I think some of the bands might have even done it themselves at one point. But then they officially started releasing them, so you can get them on like Deezer, Spotify. What's really amazing is the quality that they have them in. They have them, like, they're recording locally. I don't know if they have DSD, but we're talking 24-bit 192, if not higher, when you find it. Like, it is high-res audio. Like, they are trying to record it as clean. Like, a lot of my DSD tracks, for those wondering, which is pretty much like the best quality you can get. A lot of that's recorded live because of how it's recorded, right? Same thing with a lot of this high res, because they're not doing any processing after the fact and they're recording it live. They can just record it in that quality. Not saying they couldn't produce it in that as well. In some cases, like TK will have stuff even in like 5.1 surround, depending on what you're listening to or watching. But all of these tracks are available in high res. I maybe not some of the newer ones, but especially going a ways back. This is also the channel that introduced me to the M1ST. I noticed I don't remember which one it is, but they premiered, from my understanding, the M1STs in the first take. In here, you can actually see these. I think his might be M1STs. M1ST, yep. So TK is using M1STs. I thought I remembered that being one of the early ones that was doing that. But if we go back to, you know, Queen Bee here, see, she's also using M1STs. But if we go to one of, I don't know which one Lisa will use. Yeah, she has standard CD-900STs on. And then later on, as far as I recall, as soon as after COVID, there's a pair of CD-900STs. You can see by the I was gonna say mirrored, the like machined edge on there, right? From my understanding, after COVID, they pretty much went to straight up everybody using CD-900ST. I don't know if the M1ST didn't catch on in studios in Japan. It also could be that the artists are just more used to that. It could be that the studios, like, because they're recording in Sony studios. Well, actually, early on, yes and no. Sometimes they would bring it to them as well and set it up. Let's see here if we can. Yeah, that's CD-900ST. There you go. Very clear. Clearly the CD-900ST. Some of them even say with like label maker, like Dymo label maker, the first take on the side of them, or numbered, depending on. I actually remember this version because they're playing the timpani themselves. So, like, in this case, they don't have nearly as much backing, so they're actually playing. This part of this track has timpani, or is bum, 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 and they're playing it themselves because that is like an iconic part of this song. Let's see, what can we go to that's even newer that I recognize, that I know I listened to? They're getting heavy in like I don't know if you're noticing, but the multi-group. Oh, TMR was interesting. He's a character. Yep, see, CD-900ST. So they almost exclusively went to. Whoa! And apparently, even when they had the M1ST, it was still like they could choose whatever they want. I've even seen one of them had a Beyerdynamic. They were using like 770s. So it was really up to them. They're allowed to bring their own microphone, as well, but like a lot more, like certain stuff they can do, but it's really supposed to be. We provide a clean environment. Like you can see, TMR was using a different microphone than a lot of the other ones. Most everybody else is using, like, there is basically an industry standard microphone for vocals in Japan. And the CD-900ST, that's why it was made, was to be the industry standard headphone in Japan. Like all of the studios, the Sony studios in Japan, if they're Sony own themselves or Sony certified, use them. And that's why like the 7520 did not do well, is because it's such a change ergonomically from the CD-900ST. Now, I am not in the Japanese studio scene, so I don't know how much the M1ST has taken over or not compared to the CD-900ST. I do know that two bands I listen to, Galneris and I'm trying to think of the other one. I don't think it's Sex Machine Guns, but it's another heavy metal band. The drummer in Galneris, I believe it was, uses CD-900STs. And I think it was like a bassist of another, or might be a guitarist of another. Both of them also use the Yaxi pads. Like they're like, yep, got a new pair. Tried using it without Yaxi. Like the drummer was like, tried using it without Yaxi pads. Like the Yaxi pads for those are so common. They're like in their equivalent of Guitar Center. You just can walk in and buy them, which is crazy, you know, because that's how ubiquitous. Like that's kind of like Wacom tablets. There, here we have almost no different pens available, or you got like special arm, right? There, I've literally seen it. You walk into a digital like digital design store, but like electronics store that sells like tablets, and there'll be like a row of different pens for digital art design. And same thing with these headphones. It's like it's the headphone that everybody uses. So if they're not going to have, there are variations of headphones, but it's such a ubiquitous piece of equipment that it's like, okay, well then we'll provide accessories for it, right? Which is cool in its own right. You know what I mean? But yeah, check out it. I mean, at this point, it's huge. What I think they just hit like 5 million or something. Well, here we're over 10 million subscribers, and like I think individual stuff have 5 million views and 26 million, and yeah, it's that is an amazing performance right there. You can see some of them, like any of the ones that I've re-listened to recently are in here, but if I'm gonna re-listen to these, I'm not gonna do it in YouTube because they don't have high res. If I do the first take high res, Cubos has it. There you go, 24-bit 96. Now I think that's their limit. If I do what was that? I gotta check my local folders. It's been a while since I bought music from Japan directly. And it's not gonna pop up in US searching. I can Oi apparently has it, which is another. They're owned by Sony. They're one of what was Sony's like 5 different music buying services. Like they had 5 stores, much less you know, like streaming. Maybe they're only doing 24.96. Either way, it's all recorded, and I swear there were some that were higher res at the time. But at a minimum, you can get it in lossless, which YouTube definitely isn't. Mora, that's what I was thinking of. Mora.jp. You know, here, this is, you want to see a Japanese music? Oh, apparently I've updated my Firefox ESR far enough that the built-in translation can translate from Japanese. In this case, we do not need it, though. TK from, because his name is, will autofill with English. Click on here, maybe. There we go. Then we're going to hit that. That's high res. Right here, TK from the first take. Yeah, so it looks like they're all 24.96, which is still well above what you would get CD quality, right? That's I don't remember if it's technically achievable with Toslink, you know, like optical audio. I know 24.48 in stereo would have been. Back in that era, you would have traded either higher stereo quality for more channels, effectively, yeah, a lot of these ones that are 24-bit 88.2, a lot of those are downsampled from DSD because of the bit rate for that. You want to go to 88 for reasons, distortion reasons upon that. But, so now we have some backstory and a kitten of what the first take is. Why does it matter? Ow, ow, kitten, out, kitten, out. Those are your claws in my knee on my leg that has the bad foot. Why? Hey, can you move? You're literally right where I'm doing things. Can we move you just a little bit that way? Just a scoosh. All right. So included in here is a hat. There you go. A music moment. 920 New Era adjustable with cloth. I am not a hat person. I know if you guys watch Austin Evans, I know Ken over there with his Dinky channel is very much a hat person. I may reach out to him to see if he wants the hat from here. Otherwise, more than likely it will just live in here. Oh geez, hold on. Can't use the phone to translate because you guys are on the phone. Hopefully our phone isn't dead. I may have forgotten to charge it. Yeah, this is one pair of headphones that I will probably not put the magnet for the mod mic on because I shouldn't be using it daily for work. I may still get the Yaxi pads for this, which some of you might call sacrilege. But oh, and I should say that based on ear shape and whatever else, but even Japanese people find the ear cups on, like the stock ear cups on a CD-900ST or a MDR-7506 uncomfortable. So yeah, and that's why Yaxi immediately and the MOST came out with a deeper, more formed pad that like it made the headphone from like bearable to, I used it for years with those ear cups, and I'll probably buy a replacement pair now that I see how worn out there. And if you can look at the M1, when the M1ST came out internationally, they gave it a much deeper, thicker cup. Thank you very much for purchasing. Special box included collaboration model MDR CD-900ST professional grade monitor headphones jointly directly with Sony Music Studios. Yep. So just like the M1ST, and there's a pair of IEMs that they did back in the day as well, where the studio is actually developing the headphones rather than, or at least tweaking the headphones, rather than Sony Corporation or Sony Electronics. Yep, Sony, which is used by artists on the YouTube channel The First Take, and a collaborative cap with the popular 920 series from Global Headwear and Apparel, New Era, see below. You know, M1ST, 1000 maximum input, 1000 milliwatts, 5 to 30,000 hertz, cord length 2.5 meter, plug stereo 6.3 millimeters, a quarter inch, weight 200 grams, excluding cord. It's attached permanently though. Does have, remember I said I need a 6.3 to 3.5 mil. They pretty much knew that most people using this. Now I don't need it for my main setup normally, right? But if I'm going to plug it into that CD player like we discussed, we're going to need that. So they're shipping one of those. I actually had, and I gave it to Squeers, a very nice, probably as nice or nicer than that one made by Sennheiser that you can't get anymore. Very supple. Yep. Cap allows for CD-900 professional grade headphones intended for professional use in studios. Repairs are subject to a fee. However, in the case of initial defect, contact them. Product increase. So I can get it repaired. Probably have to ship it back to Japan to make that happen. Yeah, these are still supported. 7506 technically supported as well. Sadly, the V6, I don't remember how many years ago, but quite a few years ago, was finally discontinued, and you cannot get parts, at least directly from Sony, for it. Okay, so normally these come in a plain brown box. I have seen them before. If you guys have seen my unboxing of the M1ST, bang on the same. Even the Audio-Technica R70X, R70, well, the XAs, it's just like a white box. I mean, that one does at least have it printed on the outside. In this case, it's literally like this color is the whole box. they look to not be in there in this case. They are in a little wrapper. Anything else down here we need to see? Nope. So my thought was, I don't have a pair of CD-900STs. If I'm going to get a pair, I might as well get the pair, right? Especially because these aren't going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Now, cost on this, I did have to pay tariffs. Ended up being 15.5%. The 0.5 was buy, or sorry, not buy. Technically, it would be ECMS dealing with that's like their fee. So it's 15% tariff on top of the cost of these, on top of shipping, on top of there was a fee to go for buy to deal with it, you know, to order it and then to repack it, etc. So I can already tell by what I saw the ear cup there that I'm gonna have to replace these. Oh, these are okay. I didn't know about that. The weight difference of these compared to the V6s over there is crazy. So there you go. CD-900ST, the first take. And a nice, definitely just a sticker, but that logo on all of them is just a sticker. For example, forgot I jammed a bunch of stuff in my M1ST case. The studio monitor, just a sticker. I gotta look up the MDR V6 weight. Now I put real leather, a little bit thicker, real leather pads on there. 230 grams, and that's before I put the real leather pads on. So that is another thing that they did, because people are going to be in the studio for long hours. They reduced the weight quite substantially. Like, these feel darn lightweight. I mean, because it's 10%. Think about it. 230 to 200 grams, right? 10% of 230 is 23. So they reduced it more than 10% of the weight. Now, here's where I will keep these. I can tell you that these pads, based on my experience in real life, having bought multiple pair of replacement Sony pads for the V6, will crack, will peel. That's why I ended up going with the real leather ones here. The one thing I do wish with the real leather ones is that this opening was a bit larger. And you can see on these that it is. Right, you can see way more of that speaker in there. I will probably use these as is, but I will buy a pair of Yaxi pads for them. Probably the ones that have the red and blue to match here. And I don't think that's like sacrilege or anything, because I literally know Japanese artists. Well, follow, I don't know personally, but as in I follow online Japanese artists that they themselves are like, yes, it does alter the sound, but it's way comfortable. Holy crap, I've never had a pair of these where these are new enough where the locking mechanism actually stays. And you guys are probably like, what are you wearing? And I always say, no, not when you have a pair of 90s. Like, see that? Because it's just a little plastic nub that goes over that little bump. You can see where it's making a line. CD5s are much more robust. Oh, it should be noted that there's actually a little ridge. You can see it here, that should hook under. With these, and you'll see this fairly commonly with aftermarket Sony ear cups. They just go, and actually aftermarket cups in general. A lot of times they will not try to do that precise engineering and just say, fuck it, put it over the whole thing like that. Yes, it might look a little worse. Now, the Yaxi doesn't do that. Yaxi's pads fit perfectly. But a lot of aftermarket, especially because like these were very popular in the West as well. And like I said, this ear hole's a bit small. I know people who would either convert these to on-ear, like with big shaggy, really soft, like shaggy ear cups on them, convert them into on-ears, or get like big, like thick foam that kind of is hollowed out, you know, so it could kind of sit in your head. These were such a defined, especially like vocal monitoring headphone, which is exactly why they're using them for first take here, right? That rather than find different headphones, right, they would rather just modify this to be more applicable to what they're doing. You can see here how old this is, and I don't know if the materials change between, you know, a 90, you know, what I mean by 90 is 1990, you know, a pair of V6s from 1990, and the CD-900ST. Now, from my understanding, I may be wrong there, looking at the Sony history website, these speakers should be the same as the 7506 with modifications to the dampening and baffling. We can bring up that Sony website. Sony headphone page. We just went over this page with the CD5. So there's my CD5. I don't have yellow discolored ear cups. They're more squished foam than yellowed. There's the whole line. So CD700, CD900, V6, 70. That's 7506. So it's V7 is there. It's the weird one. V6, 7506, CD-900ST. That's like, and there are different generations of CD-900ST as well. Yeah. The V6 packaging looks like that, except like even more of it. So the original CD900 non-ST has that sort of gloss cut, right? Whereas the CD900ST is more of a like not embedded, but like zested up. Yep, there you go. So the older V6s here had the cobalt one. Now some people say that never changed. Basically, when the 7506 came out in 91, from my understanding, because this has the same driver part, it's a part for the speaker, as this, these all changed to that. And it did change how they acted, how they sounded. Because you went from the cobalt magnet to the neodymium magnet. The CD900ST is only, because it's based on the 7506, is only the neodymium magnet. And I think on one of these, they actually take apart. So there you go. Different paper between the 7506 and the CD900ST. I don't even think it's necessarily paper. It looks like felt to me. And then there you go. You have a micron silk dampener in cup. The 900ST is the only model with that. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there as well. But a lot of the ST was that was for tuning, like adding that silk dampener. Like they're trying to tune and change frequencies that, you know, they didn't like and stuff like that. Yep, some special edition limited for promotion have also been done. Sure have. We got one right here. You know. You can see how like the little foamy guy around here is on all of them, but it's kind of changed over time, right? And the CD-900ST is kind of the end of the line. It was the most advanced, most developed version. Maybe not the most durable necessarily, because it is lighter on purpose. You know, that's where the 7506 still coexisted as kind of the international version. Like I said, here's my V6. And I just toss it in the bag and throw it in my backpack and go. Throw it in my bag and go. You can see the connector here. Much more durable. If you're wondering why the 7506 also existed is, I don't know if people are actually blowing it out, but using it professionally, people were asking for the more durable driver. That's when they went to neodymium. It could take more power, if I recall correctly. Basically these were getting used professionally. Technically the CD5s and even CD7s were already were, but this just exploded it. And because having now owned CD5s, this sounds like that exact same sound profile, just bigger. Like there were people when this came out that said basically, throw out your loudspeakers. This is all you need. And compared to a CD5, yes, the amount of low end, the amount of fill that's there, it's not like the CD5s sound bad. They're just very focused, especially on like the vocal mids. So there's your difference between a true 1/4-inch jack with Springa strain relief. See, Springa, right? Versus this rubber guy here. My 1/4-inch adapter on this cable exploded at one point at a LAN party. Somebody borrowed them and pulled it out of their headphone jack, and this cable's already been replaced once. Just like my HD25s, my Sennheiser HD25s, the first thing I had to do on them. That's how you get a good used pair, is basically the HD25 guy, he even bought the cable. He just didn't want to deal with replacing it. And on those, it's literally like you unplug it, reroute it through the cable, plug it back in. They even bought the straight cable rather than the coiled one, which, let's go. You can see, even though this is a new one, it gets all uncoily and weird. I can see why, having done some more stuff professionally now, why you would want, especially in a live, not like a live recording booth style or a studio style, that you don't necessarily need the springiness, right? But in a live music scenario, like say if you're at a like you're not like in one place, you're doing DJ or you're doing live music, because you're moving around and you don't necessarily want this extra cord to go someplace it's not supposed to. Now, why do you have a 2.5 meter cord, right? Well, in many cases, this has to go to the thing that you would monitor from, which if you saw on when I was showing off the first take, that is on the mic stand, on their current thing. It may have even been further away the further back you go. So that's why you need a decently long cable, is because, yes, this has to go to your head, but it also has to get to the place where this is plugged in. That is actually why if I had a pair of DT770s that were designed for, like that's ready for like live music mounting. It's a direct competitor to a MDR V6. But they were designed for like, you know, they were updated for the more modern, and for live, as in they went from their normal microfiber cups to leatherette cups, so they sealed much better, right? And then they switched it to only a 32 ohm, because a lot of stuff now is using those wireless packs rather than having like a dedicated, powerful plugged-in amp, right? Because you might have like a, you know, everything's, for a long time, basically ever since portable audio has been a thing, everything's kind of standardized on 32 ohm. So they purposely were optimizing for that. And that also had like a 4-foot cable because they're assuming you're going to a pack on your guitar. You're going to a pack on your belt. You're going to a pack like somewhere within arm's length, basically, right? Whereas this guy, who's 2.5 meters long, and you know, for Americans, in that's what is it, roughly 3 feet to a meter, 6, 8 feet, 9 feet probably. Actually, we can figure this out. Okay, 6 foot. Yeah, I don't know if that's a full 3 foot there. Just shy, maybe 8.5 feet. With my height, my arm span's basically exactly 6 foot. So we can use that for measurement purposes. It's always good to know. Like, you guys like figure out. I know Adam Savage did a whole thing on. He even had a tattoo. He even had a ruler tattooed on his arm. But there's a whole thing with using like, what's this distance? You know, like what's this distance? Like, you can use different parts. Like, if you figure out that's an inch, then you can be like, yep, that's an inch. That's an inch. You know, like, this is 2 inches or 3 inches. I can't. Some people can keep that straight like that. I can't, apparently. But, you know, there's different body parts that, and they don't have to be exactly, but if they can be like relatively like within a 16th, or I mean within an 1/8, or even better, a 16th, you know, even better. But the fact that this lost, look at that, it's still holding its size too. I don't know that these ever did, because I bought them 15 years ago when they were more than 10 years old, like 15 years old. What would that have been? 20 years old? Oh, maybe not 20 yet, but you know, most of the wear on the headband has been from me just tossing around using them. Also, it's this like leatherette material. It just cracks and everything. You gotta remember, these are, I think, the like even V6 for like $100, right? That's like cheap enough, but good enough, sort of. Like, now you could get knockoff V6s for $80, and I know a lot of people that did that. They're like, oh, I got a deal, and I'm like, you got fake ones. Let's see how these fit with. Oh, 4. Okay, so Asian size 4 is different than American size 4, apparently. Now, I use 4 on my M1STs, even, and I even showed you, even on the old CD5s, I used 4. Though I might have mismeasured that 4, by the way, because I think the 4 is actually measured on the bottom, and that's on the top, so it might have been like a 6. But here's a 4 on these. It's very hard to hold them, because of the fact that, you know, like, yeah, the 4s fit. American 4. Here, you can see this. This headband is smaller than this on 4, is smaller than this one stock. So they definitely sized these more for their intended audience, which maybe that's how they lost some weight as well. So let's go up to 6, because that's where the CD5s were at. I think 6 or maybe even 7. What does it go to is the question. It goes to 8. Yes, so I think in Asian terms, I have big head. Yep, 6 still isn't even big enough. Let's go 7. 7 is where we're at, I think. Hard to tell, because with the original pads on these almost become partially on ears. So now I can get, like, it does seal very well here, right? It's sealed around there, but effectively it's pushing so far on my ears that they're effectively on ears at this point. And I did notice that with the M1STs, that even compared to what I'm used to seeing from Sony, And I think they made the cups thinner on here as well compared to the V6. I would have to look up to see if it's a different part number, but I would not be surprised. Because this is very similar to how the M1ST, and they probably made the M1ST after how this CD-900ST fits, where at least with my big white American ears with dangly bits, there is not enough cup, really. Like I said, based on the depth of the cup, they effectively become on ears. They still seal very well, but yeah, I gotta say that this is the first pair of Sonys that isn't older than me, that I have not been able to just put on size 4, right, and wear. So this is highly customized. Like these, like you can buy them in the US now, even on Amazon. Previously, you would have had to do it through eBay, or you would have had to import them, like not specifically the First Take ones. There's only 300 of those available. But the, like to get these, you would have to import them from Japan. I remember back in the day, and you can see they're even made in Japan still. Whereas the 7506s, I believe, are long since moved out of there. And you can I went over with the M1, how M1ST made in Japan, M1 made for the rest of the world's market, right? Not made in Japan. Here, I wonder if you can see physical screws here. That would make repair easier. I don't. Okay, they are here. They're just not shiny. They're actually kind of corroded and full of head shmoo. Yeah, like I just wiped a chunk of them out, a chunk of human shmoo out of there. I would not be surprised though, and I'd have to look up specifically the part number to see if this is using a different ear cup than the V6 or 7506. Now, some people would say, oh, if you change this out, you're going to wreck it. If I want to actually use these, I'm going to have to change it out probably. Like I said, they do fit. You kind of have to hook, you kind of hook the back of your ear in here and then let this sit on the front of, you know, like your little doodle. Not the doodle below your ear, but the doodle in the, I forget what that little pokey thing is called, but this front of the pad basically sits on that, rather than on a bigger ear cupped headphone or even an M1ST with that Yaxi pads. You can get that to fully go around your ear, no problem. Or the MV ones, no problem. The new M1s with their thicker like leatherette pads, you can see here, those are thick and luscious by comparison to what's on the CD-900ST. Now, I will say, depending on the headphone, a lot of times if you can get the ear closer to the speaker, you're going to get better sound out of it. So that might be something else there. But had I not swapped out the pads on my M1ST, it would have been a like listening to it infrequently sort of thing, right? Or when I want to enjoy that sort of sound. And it went from that to using them daily. I just have a different size head, and you can see by the M1s that are made for international audiences, they have acknowledged that they probably saw a heck ton of people buying Yaxi pads. So on this case, this is highly chromed around the ear cup here, and I don't know if that's purposeful, because if you look at the dynamic stereo headphones thing there, where it's more of that like brushed aluminum vibe, right? I feel like, or like the First Take logo, it's that like brushed aluminum. I feel like that was not like a chromed plastic, but more of a like the Sony logo previously, like that brushed. Now maybe I'm wrong, because the original CD-900s that like predate even the V6s that were also Japan exclusive. If you guys can hunt me down a pair or know where I might be able to find one, let me know. Those were glossy ear cups, right? So that probably went a little bit better with them. I've never seen this much padding on a pair of, I don't know if they increased that, or if, here. I'm down to the cloth. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I am down to the cloth there. Yeah. Downside of these versus Sennheisers, like HD25s of the Arrow, or even some Beyerdynamics are full-on solder through the cups, so I guess that wouldn't be as bad. You got these wires here, right? But effectively, this wire runs through there. So if you're replacing this, you cut it, right? And then the new headband has this, and you take apart the speaker part here, and I think it's like here that you change it, like somewhere in there, right? At one point I had some in my cart and I was going to do it, but does this really make these uncomfortable? No, they're OG, you know? They're if you're wondering, for those wondering how I normally actually adjust these on my head because it doesn't stay, is you literally just put them on your head and pull down and adjust it to your ears, and they work just fine. Actually, like with the Beyerdynamics too, those don't always hold in place perfectly. It's just we're worked to adjust them. So we got to get out the limited edition. Oh, not the head, not the hat, but the 3.5 mil to quarter-inch adapter, because the CD player we're going to use for this only has quarter-inch out. Yeah, this reminds me very much of the Sennheiser one, except a little bit smoothed over. About the same length. It can kind of double over itself. Definitely a quality adapter, and I think they knew that a lot of the people buying this would want to use it with their current stuff. And I mean my DAC amp, obviously. Here, yeah, quarter-inch jack, 4.4 mil jack, XLR. We got no problem there. But this guy, or that guy, 3.5 mil. You know, even some lower end DAC amps for PC, if they're not designed for like the 600 ohm headphones and stuff, they won't even bother doing it's not Sony. Is this a DVD or is it a CD? Oh, okay. If we want to listen to something that I know that I haven't opened, new old stock from 9mm Apparel and Bullet, early albums, Pantomime, and was it Terminator? No, Gallahorn. There you go. Now that's not Sony per se. So for some Sony, we do have the new single from AKG. So we can check those out. I was going to do the Spellbound, because I think they're Sony, but it's a DVD. CD players don't play DVDs. Who knew, right? Who knew that CD players don't play DVDs? I am surprised at how much lighter these are. Now, like I said, a lot of that could come down to, now that I found out the headband is tiny, you can see the gold versus silver. The more consumer side, or the digital, like the digital side, I always said the 4 digital was weird, is it has the gold down here, right? But then this was always silver, and that was silver, right? But then when you went to the 7506s, that will be gold, from what I remember. I've had 7506s over the years. Most of them, like I said, I purposely bought. I might have even had a pair of 75, like brand new 7506s before I acquired these V6s, or was borrowing them, or I forget. But maybe I bought a new version for my dad at some point, or helped him find a new version. I don't, like, here's how much he's used to that sound. When he Okay, so motorcycle helmets used to not have speakers in. You can order them that way, right? They didn't have audio. He would just take those, because they have exposed wires, cut them off, and take this part, right, and mount it into the motorcycle, and then use a pair of V6 speakers for his motorcycle helmet speakers. So just for context there. Okay, we'll get to this. I want to listen to. I know 9mm Parallel Bullet very well. Look at this new. I thought they reissued it or something to get it under their new label. Nope. Apparently the reason why they could sell it, because they actually, I don't know if they don't own the rights to their original albums or what's going on there, but their current label doesn't. Turns out they found a box, and I noticed that on here was the age. This is from new, right? 08 here for Gallahorn. Taking the Obi, putting the Obi in here so we don't lose the Obi. Oh, you can even smell that's new old stock. If only you could be here. Like, look at that, you can even see those cellophanes change a little bit. Now, what did we have for, I think, impedance-wise, these are the same as Sony. Oh, God, the ear cups being as shallow as they are. I might even have to max these out to 8. It doesn't like going to 8, guys. It really doesn't. Yep. I have to, at least with the current ear cups, in order to get a good enough seal, I have to max them out to 8, which is the max size that this headband. And now you're seeing my issue with it being a little bit heavier set now. Probably as long as you guys have seen me on YouTube. When buying Japanese stuff, their stuff is not the same size as ours. So phono out, close that, turn it on. Probably gotta turn it down some. 30 was quite loud on heavier headphones that actually had some. Okay, we can use some more. What are these? 60 ohm, probably? Alright, we're searching here for 63 ohm. Yeah, it's the same as the V6s. Yeah, it was actually easier to get gold-plated one of these. This should be highly comparable because they're the same, effectively. Well, this is the older Cobalt speaker, but same ohm. Different ear cups. Obviously. I think I already heard more bass on the V6s. Now this could be with the leather, the truly leather ear cups that are a bit deeper. I wish I had a better setup for dual analog. Let's listen. 9mm early stuff is actually quite up in the mid-range compared to as the it's just some of their newest stuff is again, but so the CDR-900STs are louder for sure. I don't know if that means they're more sensitive or what. Oh, the neodymium make it's actually may make them more sensitive. Also, I'm much closer with the CD900ST. Like, look at the pad thickness there. So that could have something to do with it. Yeah, look at that though. I have to be on 8. I know it doesn't say 8, it says 7, but that is because 8 is up there. So I can tell you, if you like this generation of Sony headphones, your MDR V6, 7506, etc., that these are the ultimate form of that. Right? It's like a purposefully, not that these weren't purposely tuned out of the gate, right? But this is a like purposely tweaked, tuned, and further optimized studio version of the V6 and or technically the later 7506. But if you like that generation sound quality, this is just like it's the same but better. Like, you're not going to see some hugely different change in response curve, and that's just, it's not supposed to be that. It is supposed to be we took the headphone that we like that Sony wanted effectively, right? And turned that into it's like refining a sword, refining a weapon, refining a knife, that sort of thing. Like, we sharpened it to perfection. That's what this is. And realistically, these ear cups are not the worst. I could see them very much getting just like the M1STs. If I sat here for half hour, hour and a half, this part of my ear is resting right on that. I mean, you could even tell you that you can see these fresh foams around here that are on the speaker. That's sealing on my ear just about as much as that is. It feels like. I feel like, well, where are those on here? Well, they're in there, but they're a bit worse for wear, right? This is a brand new pair. Let me hit stop, and we're going to pull this CD out. I'm going to get out the next 9mm, and then we'll get on to the brand new AKG. So we can, this is from 2008. This is prime when I would have been using this back then. Yeah, and I can tell you, even when I push on these to get the speaker closer to my head, right? Because these are using that that older driver, they do have a different sound level to them in general. These are just way more clear. There might be more bass in these. I can almost guarantee that is because of the thicker, deeper leather pads there. We'd have to look at headphone curve stuff, but I can almost guarantee, and I might be wrong there, that like when it comes to like technically speaking, when you look at a graph, there can't be much between these. Because technically, not that tuning a headphone doesn't matter. What they're trying to do with like the different foam, like taller foam around the speaker, or you know, like that silk, micro silk, whatever dampener on the inside of the cup, like it's basically in this thing here, is they're trying to kill certain either reverberations or frequencies or resonance, or much like you can fix a speaker from sounding boomy by filling it with what's it called, fiber fill, you know, like polyfill. Ooh, I actually got this with the DVD. Ooh, I didn't even know that had that. I seriously thought these, like, oh, did they finally get the ability to re-release them? Nope. They just found in their, like, I think it was in, and so I want to say Clubhouse, but like in some sort of storage, they found just apparently a couple cases of these from that they never sold during their early whatever you want to call it, early concerts. Arting's headphone thingy. Headphone side-by-side comparison tool, yeah. So we need CD-900, oh, really? CD-900ST graph comparison. Okay, and your Fidelity has one. Clinical/graphs, graph comparisons, headphones, free. Yep. Oh, they're actually showing how it goes above certain things and happily squiggling. Alright, let's do a comparison. Search CD-900, yep, ST plus. Yep, put that on there. Search CD-900 ST. Okay. Let me show you what I'm trying to do. I am apparently not getting how this works, because I'm clicking on these headphones. Okay. So how do I compare this with that's a CD-900. We don't want a CD-900. CD-900ST. Okay, so click that. Oh, it keeps changing this graph.hangout audio CD-900ST. Like that's where I'm like not getting. Sure, click it. Click it. Am I just like not understanding how this functions? Okay, so then can we do a V6? There, yeah. So we're currently... which one did I click? Super review, maybe? Of course they don't have one. V6. Oh my god. Like, this just seems like impossible to use properly. Super review, V6. Isn't that this one? So you can actually see it on the low end. Remember how I said the V6 had more bass? Maybe I'm not insane. So you can see where it's getting a bit weak here. With the V6, that's what they're trying to get out of it. Interesting. I do not know why this took this long to get to this. Like, why can't I just do comparisons? And I know they're trying to monetize this because they're like, oh, we got keep a website going, blah, blah. It cannot be that much to... Sure, Unheard Lab. I'm going to go 7506. Super Review. Like, why is Super Review not giving me their own thing on their own website? Like, I literally do not understand that. Okay, so the difference between a V6 and a 7506, I mean, if you look at that, it's effectively the same. I mean, there might be a slight variance difference in there. I don't know if these V6s are the original ones, like I have the Cobalt ones, or if they are... I'm probably doing this wrong. You guys are like, oh yeah, if you press over here, you can probably get a get a thing. You know what I mean? But you can definitely see here, supposedly, both of these are very similar. Like, if you bumped this, it would match this bottom one. I can almost guarantee that. Or very, very, very closely. There might be, yeah, if you need a little bit more dip there. But you can see with the tuning of the CD-900ST, remember how I said the V6 had more bass? It does. It for as little bass as the V6 has, it has more. But they have really kind of, I don't want to say fixed, but they brought this up. Yeah, that dip that happens right there, up, with the tuning they've done. So you're seeing a much flatter response. So that's just an interesting, you know, like I heard like the vocals, lead guitar sounded louder on here for sure. Like I said, more bass there. I originally chalked it up just to the thicker leather pads. I am sure that's not... Oh, by the way, I should note that part of the reason why these have leather pads is too is for isolation. Like, I wanted them to isolate more in the places I was using them. LAN parties, public transit, you know, because a lot of this was before I could drive. And these have held up quite well. The fact that they're only now starting to do that, like, I don't know. These pads are probably 10, 15 years old. Because after buying 3 sets of these from Sony, like I said, they might not be the exact same ones, but they're the same material. I think these might be a little bit more shallow because smaller headphone, smaller ears, smaller people. After my 3rd pair, I replaced them for a 2nd time, right? Or 3rd time, I guess, because I replaced them right out of the gate. And then after the 3rd one, I'm like, and I think this was like I said, when I was starting YouTube, and I think I saw somebody else who, a couple of creators that were definitely like pushing these back when everybody's like, oh, gaming headsets. And I'm like, even the best gaming headset of that era, like, Siberia 2s from SteelSeries sounded butts compared to this. But you need that mic, right? So let's give this album a quick test here. Do 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 do. All right, let's. I'm gonna have to restart this track, but it's got a pretty deep opening for 9mm of this era. Yep. Now that I know what I'm necessarily listening for, I can definitely hear it. For a headphone that's already relatively flat, it's surprising how much that tuning they did of the driver and the enclosure, like the headphone casing. Can flatten that out. Definitely brings the mids up. And it kind of takes, now, like I said, some of this might be because these of having the deeper leather cups, which are flaking this is getting more annoying. Like, this is getting back to, I just hated the flaking, which is why I went to the leather cups. Now, they've made it a long fucking time, but the fact that even with the leather, I'm getting flakes now is, maybe these deserve some Yaxi pads. Maybe I'll get them some leather Yaxi pads. And these guys, the microfiber Yaxi pads. I don't know. You guys tell me. But I'm surprised at, now, granted, we are listening to cobalt versions of the driver versus neodymium versions of the driver. But what are effectively the same driver with just small tweaks. And I can't believe, and I won't believe, like some people like, oh, if you put different ear cups on a headphone, they will sound like a completely different headphone. No. These sound like a completely different headphone because the guts internally are tuned differently. Not that I'm going to take these ear cups off and put them on there. I'm not going to far around with it. And like I said, there is probably some that's affecting that. But it's not just that. There's actually not only is the 900ST more balanced, there's more definition in that range. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of the early 9mm parallel bullet stuff, it's not the like its dynamic range is not the greatest. This definitely widens that, I will say, because a lot of their stuff is within that certain, so you can hear more of it more evenly, would be the best way to describe that. I would argue, I think Pantomime, not the songs, tracks necessarily, but the tuning of it sounds better in Pantomime than... Does anybody see how unresponsive this is? I don't know if it's happening on camera or not. But before I was trying to go back a track, and I can press it, and it wouldn't do it. Like, it becomes unresponsive. And the first time you press any button, if you haven't touched it in a while, it just doesn't do the thing. Like I press stop to stop this album from playing, right? So I can get the disc out. And yeah, this is I could have never bought, could have never bought those at the time. That's probably when I started buying Japanese music. Prior to that, it would have all been via iTunes, if at all, right? Maybe some. I think I have Guitar Wolf. That might be because I saw them in person. Pillows. Their stuff became a little bit more readily available, but that was kind of because of Fooly Cooly. Drop the Obi. Like there was in the I would say like mid 2000s, there was a resurgence of trying to get like or a ska band, like especially like there was Japan Girls Night that had a bunch of all female Japanese bands. That's when like My Foot from the Pillows came out. They did a tour for it. Saw them for that tour. You know, and that's around the era where I kind of started buying. I had a few that were very explicitly bought. That's when my purchases from CD Japan go. They go all the way back to I think 06. So at least 06. I might have said earlier this year that we're getting on to 20 years, or at. So this is AKG's new single. I mostly bought this for the live. There's some brass in here. There's definitely some bass and drums. Obviously, I mean, I'm very familiar with AKG's sound. Blu-ray, okay. I was just trying to see when this was released, if it was on here. Oh, it's probably on the Obi. May of this year, so I'm a bit behind. Here, if you guys want to see, like they say, Blu-ray is called blue for the laser, but if you look at that, because of the coloring and the coating, because the layer was so much closer to the bottom of the plastic, they have to put on there. That actually makes them super durable, but it also has this blue tinge. Feels weird in the hand, like not antimicrobial, but like anti-oily, like slippery. Let me read it. Listen to the beginning of this. He coughs. Very Japanese male vocal chord. I forget the lead singer's name off the top of my head at the moment. Let's try this again. Oh yeah, wow. You see, it just didn't rewind again when I pressed it. Recessed a bit more on the V6s. Okay, that bass definitely comes up more. And like I said, the mids are a bit more recessed, which is odd coming from what is known to be like a very vocal monitoring headphone. This is me being very surprised. I did not think, and seeing that the graph now, and I don't know if that graph is a perfect comparison because I was having trouble navigating it, right? I am just about as surprised as when I did the R70X versus the R70XA. When realistically they didn't. I mean, they tuned the drivers a bit more, but effectively it's the same bass headphone in a different frame, just tuned differently. One thing they did with the R70XA versus the R70X from Audio-Technica. Those that don't know which ones I'm talking about, here's the XAs. I don't know if you can see how much you can see the speaker there, but like it's just there. Even internal here, it's literally just there. So one of their big tuning things is they literally just like, it sounds like, not that you're closer, but that there's like, literally in the music, it sounds like there's less between you and the music. And part of that is literally because there is less in the headphone between you and the sound. And it's surprising how much, like the R70 X versus the R70XA, like how similar they are, but the XA just like it's the same but better, right? It just wakes up. I've heard a few people that don't like it, but in my opinion, if you like how the R70X is tuned, you will love how the XA is tuned, because it's effectively just more of that, right? There are things that, like, I don't even want to say like I didn't hear, not that you couldn't hear with the old ones, but like that are there now. And the biggest thing, and it's similar here, is these are not bassy by any means, right? But the compared to the CD-900ST, they sound bassy. Whereas the CD-900ST is a much more flat, smooth tuning, more consistent tuning, let's say. Like in this, you kind of like notice, and maybe I didn't, in the past I haven't like complained as much about that or anything, because I'm a percussionist. So in this, you very much hear snare and bass. Like you can hear both of those. Like they must be in places in the curve that are up a bit higher, right? But so the toms kind of like not as much there. Whereas this, rather than hearing like, I'm gonna say like the snare and the bass, you hear like the drum set as an instrument. That's kind of like the best way, because you hear the whole thing being played evenly, rather than having, I'm not saying it even sounds bad here, right? I'm just saying like that's the improvement. And I'm surprised with just changing, like there's that, they call it paper, and that could be just a Japanese translation thing, but it's sort of that like felt piece that the speaker mounts to, the foam that is around the speaker. Now, I didn't mention what was changed there. I could tell in the pictures like something was differing there a little bit. But then there was that micro silk that they put in here for dampening. I think that, to be truthful, is probably what's doing the most work here, because all of these other ones are hollow in there. Or there might be like a piece of, I might have seen a piece of like really yellowed foam in there that just prevents this cable here, the audio cable, from rattling around in there. I don't know how to, like this just sounds more hollow. Another thing I did just notice, this is a much thicker gauge wire, and it could be because they fold. Right, that's actually why that piece retains it there. Then this is a much thicker gauge wire than on these. Like these are just lighter, more dainty in general, and that is going to benefit the people that are actually using them in studio for hours at a time, right? Because they're much, like I said, they're more than 10%. You guys can do the math. What 30 grams of 230 is, but they're more than 10% lighter than these. And I'm sure because these have these leather cups on them, that they are even heavier now, right? I am impressed. I am very impressed. You can even see the remnants of the folding mechanism. Like these just straight up, just metal into there screwed down, rather than the folding mechanism. But it's still made out of the same bits, just modified, right? And this also has like more of like a matte. This is a little bit of sheen to it. Now, like, a lot of that sheen could be age. I'm very happy with this very extended video in having my own pair of CD-900STs now. And I wish I would have got a pair sooner, because especially if you like this generation of Sony headphone, this seems to be the ultimate version. Yeah, like I said, in some cases they're still using, at least in the first take, they've basically standardized back to this version. I don't know if that means the M1ST hasn't really hit it off as much as they thought, or if this one's more iconic for that. I don't know enough. If you guys know more and have seen the studio scene, are they making that transition from the 900ST to the M1ST or not? I mean, the M1ST has to be doing well enough, because they just came out with the M1 this year as like an international variant of that. 7506 still around, because there are people that probably have been using that since the 90s and are like, yep, that's my headphone. I know exactly what it sounds like. I know how to tune using it. And I always do these modifications, or, you know, because in a lot of the cases, these are like a disposable piece of equipment, right? I think the non-special editions run somewhere, like they're under 200 bucks, right? So does a pair of M1STs. These guys and 7506s you can get for 100 bucks. And you're like, oh, that's disposable. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like you throw it out after every use, but like if something happens to it, you just go and get another pair of that model, maybe a pair of ear cups or whatever it is that you do to it. Like maybe, like I've seen people tape up the cords or put different cords on them, or, just like people have with their guitars or their drumsticks or their, what other instruments, or even if you're like a drawing person, some people, tape pens or pencils in a certain way, or like that sort of stuff. There's all these preferences that you just kind of either learn over time, or learn from people that have taught you, or pick up or find that you prefer, etc. Or it's maybe you encountered this thing being dumb it's not okay. Here, I would like to illustrate. It has always been this way with both cables that this has had. It is not springy enough to support itself, so it always droops, right? Now that means it's very stretchy, but what that also means is so I have literally seen people where they go like this, and then they hook, and this may be where this happened, right? They hook it like that, and yep, you have a shorter cable. But if you're going to like a pack on your belt or something, that is long enough, and you literally just bunch that up. So it's now I've also seen I have II made the mistake early on where their coiled cables were so tightly coiled you couldn't actually stretch them when you wanted to. So I think this one's a little droopy. Every 7506 and V6 I've ever had has been droopy. Now I've come to more. I used to like coiled cables, and it was mostly because the non-coiled cable would come at the length that the coiled cable comes when it's fully extended. So you'd have to be dealing with way more cable. Where at least when I had the coiled cable, granted, it was this it gets caught on one thing and it just boing. At least the coiled cable, it shortens it substantially, right? So I don't, because I'm not walking away that far from using my headphones, at least back then. Nowadays, more actually, I have found I'm like, oh, I can definitely see why people want that, or why, depending on what you're doing, you might even want a coiled cable. It's like the HD25s from Sennheiser. Came coiled by default, and then one of their replacement cables was a straight cable. It was mainly aimed at DJs though, and live stuff, so I can see why you would want a coiled cable for that. But then if you use it in the studio, I can see why you maybe just want a long straight one. Those cables are also stainless steel. I don't know if they're just reinforced or if the whole thing was, but they're bitch to solder. I think the whole wire was stainless steel, which is kind of different for headphones, but cable wouldn't break. And if it did, you could just get replacements. And in this case, in order to replace this cable, I had to unscrew the ear cup and solder. That was considered repairable. I mean, it still is repairable now, but nowadays people would want like a plug that just unplugs and plugs back in, like the M1ST has. Or at a minimum, there'd be a connector inside of there where you can just unconnect it, you know, like an internal style plug. Whereas, you know, back in the day, even these now, like they said, you can send them in for repair. You're due the cost, right? Now I need to find a case for these. So if any of you have suggestions for CD-900STs, because not that any of them ever came with a case, they don't. But now that I own a pair and I'm going to want to be taking them places or storing them nicely, I'm going to need a case. So if you guys know any CD-900ST cases that are good, let me know. And ideally have a spot for, in this case, I will probably just run, I'll probably leave this guy in there because that's what came with it. Or I might pick up a, what's this brand? DD Hi-Fi. I have quite a few of their adapters, and they're always very sleek and minimal. You know, like you could probably have it, like you don't need a cable this long. You don't even need, I'm betting you could have something, an adapter that long. That's still decent, especially if it's like right angle or something. So questions, comments, throw them down below. These are probably at least, what were they? That's the OLED monitor. It disconnects itself when it goes to sleep, so it can clean itself annoyingly. 3630. Let's go to Amazon.co.jp. CD-900ST. So a standard CD-900ST is, oh, they're auto converting, the bastards. Delivered to, oh my god, it's because I've not signed it. Apparently they will not ship CD-900STs to the US anymore, directly from Amazon in Japan. They have plenty of places that already have them in the US that have imported them in bulk, probably. Be aware, if you make a Amazon Japan account, you need to use a different email than your Amazon US, because they are different. Unlike some other countries, like co.uk uses the same sign-in. This does not. So 21,600 on Amazon for a CD. Okay, 2486 from Sony themselves. So I bought those from Sony themselves. So let's call 36,300 to 2486. That's like what? 12,000 yen difference. 12 yen to USD. It's like $80. Back in the day, that would have been like $100 difference. So I paid, you know, $100 premium over just the CD-900ST to get this version. Now, yeah, I'll do it because, yeah, anybody can buy a CD-900ST. not everybody will have a first take version. And if I'm going to get a version, you might as well get, I do that with music. You know, if I'm going to go out of the way to ship this to US, I might as well get the one with the Blu-ray in it. Right. At a minimum, the DVD. And if you're still buying, like Japan still ships DVDs for tons of stuff because physical media, right? But if they have a Blu-ray and a DVD version, I'm getting the Blu-ray one. Or I'm going to get, if I'm going to buy a release of a movie, I either won't buy it or I'll buy the limited edition one. Because if you're going to buy it, you might as well buy one worth buying. You know, that's sort of a thing, if that makes sense. So questions, comments, throw them down below. Have you guys had a similar experience with the CD-900ST over, like, say, a V6 or 7506? I am really surprised what, you know, like the same drivers, but matched and tuned with the, you know, like, I mean, look at the outside of the housing. It's the same. Like, they just took what they had here and optimized it heavily, right? Similar experience if you go and watch my R70X and R70XA. And that R70X to XA transition was much greater than the R70X to the Refine, which was effectively a pad swap that everybody was like, oh, I need this the whole time and blah, blah. I don't think it did. I think the original might be better. I know some people are like, oh, the pads are crappy. I don't know, man. Fit my head great. Always have, always will. See you in the next one. Peace.